Right now, we are in the 1884 Baldwin Roundhouse at the B&O Railroad Museum. Kris, tell us a little history of this place.
Oh, we are at the birthplace of American railroading. This is where it all started, and Baltimore gave the nation the B&O Railroad. And this is the 1884 Baldwin Roundhouse. It is known as the Cathedral, and I think when you look at it, you can see why.
Sure can.
And it has a little bit of history in that in 2003, the snowstorm collapsed the roof.
I remember that.
And I will tell you what, support came in from worldwide to make sure that the birthplace stayed intact.
Wow. And this basically, in the heyday, it was a workshop for trains.
In the heyday, it was a workshop for trains. They would bring them in and they would turn them around so that they could repair them and put them back out on the track. And this is still a working turntable. We do turntable demonstrations.
Wow. And it is decorated for the holidays, so if you get a chance, come out and, I mean, look at this. Bring your kids and they'll see just amazing things and see them in person.
35-foot Christmas tree right in the middle of the turntable. When you say holidays, you say B&O.
So right now, there's the first 100 years in there, right? Let's walk around and look at the trains.
It is. This is the first 100 years of railroading. So we can start right at the very beginning with the Pioneer. And
they were horse-drawn?
They were horse-drawn. And as a matter of fact, the B&O had stables on our property. We had stables so that even when it went to the steam engines, they were brought in by horses once they got to the city line by ordinance. So the first ones, and right next to it's the Tom Thumb, and there's a legendary, history.
The race. He raced the horse.
He raced the horse, and he may have lost the day, but he won the war because we went to steam engines.
Right. 1830, Tom Thumb.
Yes, yes.
And that race happened right down the road at Ellicott City, correct?
It did, and it was Peter Cooper's, and so it's great history.
What are we looking at here, Kris?
Well, these are how the original passenger coaches. And when you look at that, we've got the two Imlay coaches, and
it looks like a stagecoach.
It looks like a stagecoach, and what's even more remarkable is they say that 40 people could fit in each coach. I still can't quite figure it out, but they were obviously
smaller,
very small back then. Yes.
Wow.
But these were the first passenger coaches.
I guess the people up top had to worry about the elements. The ones inside were okay.
The ones inside were okay.
Kris, what are we looking at here, this Lafayette? Explain what this is.
This is the first freight train. You're looking at how freight would go through the country.
Wow.
And the Lafayette also had a horizontal boiler, and if people are interested in the technology, you can see how technology changed throughout the century.
Right, wow, look at that. Now how much would this be coal fed?
Yes.
Okay. So somebody has to sit back here and feed that puppy and as they went down the rails.
Yes.
Wow. And the freight's a little smaller than they haul nowadays.
It's 100% smaller than they haul nowadays.
Kris, right here, we're looking at a piece of history, aren't we?
We are. This is the Minion, the number 57, and it's an actual Civil War locomotive that did battle in the Civil War. So it actually has a historic landmark designation, this particular locomotive.
So where did it, do you know where it traveled, where it went?
It went, I don't know the exact route, but this display also shows you the role of African American and their journey through the Civil War, because a lot of the southern railroads, people don't realize, were built by enslaved labor. The B&O was not, but a lot of the southern railroads were, and when they became freemen or freedom seekers, a lot of them came and worked for the B&O, which was supporting the Union, and they knew how to help sabotage some of the southern railroads.
Gotcha. And this says the war came by train, yes, Stonewall Jackson and the B&O.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
And people don't realize, I mean, you hear the history about the Civil War, but you don't realize that a lot of the troops were carried via train.
Wow. Okay. They had to get around.
They had to get around. They absolutely did, and
there's no helicopters.
There were no helicopters.
Let's talk about other history of this train here and the B&O.
Well, and the B&O during the Civil War, we have recently something that we're very honored with and humbled by is the fact that we have been designated an Underground Railroad site, a Network to Freedom site by the National Park Service. We have researched for a year and learned that at least 8 freedom seekers went through the B&O's Mount Clair station, and over 25 freedom seekers we can track went on the B&O system. And we're continuing our research, but we are definitely on hallowed grounds.
Wow, amazing.
And we will be having an exhibit coming out in the spring on the ingenuity of the freedom seekers, as well as the role the physical railroad played in the Underground Railroad.
Wow, because people don't think of the railroad when they say Underground Railroad.
They don't. But a lot of the language and the symbols and the fact that the B&O, it made a business decision not to enforce against freedom seekers. So they chose to pay a $500 fine, which would be equivalent to $14,000 today, if a freedom seeker were found on their train.
Gotcha. Well, right here is one of the fan favorites, the William Mason. Tell me about this one. It's beautiful.
The William Mason is beautifully restored, and one of its claim to fame is that it was the locomotive that pulled Lincoln safely to his inauguration when he was under threat of assassination. He went through Baltimore at night secretly, and this is the locomotive that pulled him to his inauguration.
Wow.
This locomotive is also a movie star. This locomotive has been in the Wild Wild West and quite a few of other number of movies as well. And it's an 1856 locomotive.
So Kris, what's in store for the holiday season?
Oh, the holidays. We love the holidays at the B&O. We have a beautiful Christmas tree. We have Santa. You can come bring your children to have their picture taken with Santa. We also, on December 14th, have Santa for your furry friends. You can bring your dogs to meet Santa.
My daughter will be excited.
December 14th. We're going to have evening trains where you can ride the Reindeer Railway Express. We have lots of activities going on this month in December.
It's so decorated so beautifully.
It truly is. Well, we are in the middle of Polar Express. In fact, this is our last weekend for Polar Express coming up. But this is the beautiful Roundhouse, and it is transformed into a winter wonderland.
It sure is. Beautiful. So Kris, here we have a clearance car. Explain how this works.
This works. The B&O was very industrious. What they did was they created a clearance car, and if you can imagine all of these spikes out almost like a porcupine going height and width, and they would send it through a tunnel first before they would put the train, and they would see which ones were pushed in, and that would tell them whether the train behind them could come through or not.
Wow. Just like the trucks nowadays on the highway, they have that antenna in front to make sure the truck will go
Exactly. Only this was in the 1800s.
Wow. Well, Kris, you say this is a mail car. It looks more like a prison.
Well, you know, they had mail and they had money, so they had to make sure that they kept everything safe.
Oh, okay.
But I will show you back here that.
Now these big door openings, they would throw the mail in as
they would throw the mail in, and in fact they would use these hooks, put them out the window, and they would snatch the bag as the rail car was running. So you had to be pretty skilled to get this mail.
Okay, now we're in the front. Now they actually sorted as the train went down the tracks?
They did. This was how mail was delivered, and that's also part of the reason why we got time zones in our country, was so that people knew when the train would be coming. It all came from the railroad.
And it looks like the guy or woman had protection.
They did, because again, all kinds of things would be in this train that could potentially be of value. And this is exactly how it looked in its day.
Wow. So right now, what is this car here called?
It is a combined segregation car. It shows you how segregation occurred on the rails. Right here up front is the segregated section, and you can see this was the less desirable area. It was next to the stove that got exceedingly hot and sooty and dirty next to the bathroom. And then it had a whites only section, which is where people had better seats and better travel. And you know, the issue here also is when people were asked to leave their seats, if they did not do so, sometimes they would literally be thrown off the train. And there is a woman who that happened, and of course you could have physical damage, bodily damage from that. She actually sued, and She did not win her case, but she got monetary damages, which was a breakthrough.
Big deal, right.
And then in 1906, Reverend Johnson from the Union Baptist Church, he was asked to switch seats, and he sued. He was a lawyer, and he sued, and he overturned rail segregation in the state of Maryland. So we at the museum every year partner with Union Baptist Church over MLK weekend or Black History Month, because it's come full circle and it's a really authentic partnership.
So this looks like a luxury liner here. Tell us about this, Kris.
It is. It was part of the Royal Blue Line, and you can see that everything was pure luxury. There was gold trim, and the seating and upholstery was beautiful. And so the B&O was known for luxury passenger travel.
Well, Kris, I want to thank you for this tour at the B&O Railroad Museum. Tell the people at home when they can visit and bring their children.
We are open 7 days a week, 10 to 4.
Okay, through the holidays?
Through the holidays, all year long.
So this isn't just a railroad museum. Explain what this actually is.
What we like to say is that we tell the history of America through the lens of the railroad. Every car in our collection is connected to either a person, place, or significant event in American history.
And there's only one birthplace.
And there's only one birthplace.
And it's right here at the B&O Railroad Museum. And how much property is around here?
We have 40 acres. We extend into West Baltimore, and you can ride the first mile of commercial track ever laid in the country.
Wow.
And we take you out to see where the first stone was laid.
And we just saw a small part from the 1800s.
You just saw a very small part from the 1800s. We have the second 200 years. We have, which is actually comes up in 2027. We also have modern technology. So we've just skimmed the surface. Come on back.
Well, I'm coming back. I'll tell you, when the weather's good, we're going to go back and walk around outside and do the next 100 years. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect. Perfect.
All right, join us next time on Pit Stop, the Traffic Jam Jimmy.